Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for logging into this webinar. I'm Karandeep Manhas, and I'm part of the ETF team at Mirae Asset. Today, we bring to you another thought-provoking session, and today the topic for our discussion is the power of ETF in treasury management. We will also see that how the institutional clients have been able to use ETFs to construct their portfolio in a very seamless manner. To talk about this topic, we have amongst us very esteemed speakers today. We are going to start the session by a brief address by Mr. Swaroop Mohanty. Mr. Swaroop Mohanty is the CEO of Mirae Asset Mutual Fund. Sir has spent more than 2 decades in the industry and needs no introduction, and is one of the most prominent leaders in the asset management industry. Followed by Sir's address, we will have Mr. Siddharth Srivastav joining us, who is the head of ETF products at Mirae Asset. And he would be sharing our views on the ETF product and the overall ETF industry with a brief presentation. And then coming to the most interesting part of our webinar is the conversation between Mr. Siddharth Srivastav and a panel of very esteemed guests whom we have invited today. They are key decision makers and handling large treasuries, and they will share their views on various aspects regarding the role of ETFs in treasury management. So let's begin with welcoming Mr. Swaroop Mohanty, and I hand it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Karan. It's good to see this aspect of ETFs being discussed today. So I thank on behalf of Mirae Asset not only all the viewers who have joined us today, but the esteemed panelists who have joined us. And I'm looking forward to also learning from them in the due course of this presentation and discussion. But just before we start, just a little bit brief about us, and we are known more on the active side, and we want to start this business in India. And there is a perspective of Mirae Asset when it comes to ETFs across the world. We as a group ventured into the ETF business in 2006. And in the last 15 years, we've grown organically as well as inorganically in several parts of the world. Right now, we are present in 9 countries and manage over 370 ETFs with an aggregate AUM of around 32 billion. Globally, we are the 18th largest ETF player and are proud of ourselves and being a niche ETF player globally. We have grown our business through innovative strategies or thematic ETFs across all segments. When you look at the ETF market, it has grown tremendously across the world. There are over 7,100 ETFs today with a total AUM of over USD 5.9 trillion. I don't think there is any other idea which has been adopted at this rate from an investing perspective. We in India today are starting to see this tide turning. With the growing efficiencies in the market, it is expected that the alpha generation of the previous years may or may not be repeated in the next years, and hence the low cost and the ability to trade intraday facilities of the ETFs are catching a lot of attention in the market. ETFs have become a compelling investment product right now. Gone are those days when we could debate between active or passive. It's going to be active and passive together going forward. And the product spreads and the rise of innovation across the broking and fintech companies have made ETFs investing very convenient and, of course, inexpensive. We decided to venture into the ETF business in 2018. In the last 2 years, our focus has been to set the foundation of the business right. By learning from investors' experiences like yourself, our focus has been to provide ETFs to our investors at the right price and to ensure liquidity and intraday tracking of index on exchange. Of course, to provide convenient ways to invest, and most importantly, to reduce the overall cost of investing in an ETF. I feel now at Mirae Asset, ETFs provide a distinct advantage over a lot of players in the market. We right now have 2 plain vanilla ETF products, and we soon plan to come up with exciting ETF offerings like the ESG ETFs and other thematic strategies as we unfold in this journey. I hope we all have an engaging session today and will start embracing ETFs as an investment product from today and the future. So thank you so much for listening in to me, and hand it back to Karan and Siddharth. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'll be talking about ETF market in India and why ETFs make a compelling investment product right now. So global ETF industry is around 30 years old. It has around 7,100 ETF and the total AUM is around $5.9 trillion. ETF industry in India started in early 2000, but initial journey had been slow till 2014. The total AUM of industry was around 10,000 crores. But in last 5 years, we've seen a dramatic shift. Now the total AUM stands at 1,70,000 crores. And most of this has been driven by a lot of thrust which we have seen from the government side by disinvesting CPSE companies through the route of ETFs, by investments from the EPFO in Nifty 50 and Sensex ETF. And also one major change which we have seen is that this alpha is reducing, especially in the large cap space. So people have started noticing that mutual funds which are of high cost are facing increasingly challenging time to outperform the benchmark. So the presence of these low cost products like ETF are now becoming very compelling, and that is why it is taking more and more space in the investment space, both from the institutional side and from the retail side. So quickly, what is the market share of ETFs in India? Right now, it is dominated by Nifty 50 and Sensex ETF. Both are very plain vanilla ETF investing into blue chip companies. Almost 2/3 of the market right now is based on these two products. If we talk about CPSE ETF, Bharat Bond, which was recently launched, Bank and Gold, these four categories cover remaining 30% of the market. But let's if we remove all the ETFs in which government has given some sort of mandates. So typically these are 8 ETFs in which EPFO is investing, 2 ETFs through which government is disinvesting its holding in CPSE, and 2 Bharat Bond ETF. If we remove these 8 ETF, we see a different picture, right? We see that a lot of market share is in the banking ETF. Insurance companies and banks themselves take a lot of exposure in this ETF, either due to tactical calls or for long-term allocations. Then comes Nifty 50, and now gold has started to garner more and more AUM because of the rise in gold prices. So while plain vanilla ETFs have till now garnered most of the AUM, we are also seeing a lot of new innovative ETFs come up in this space. If you look down, there are 3 smart beta ETFs in the market right now based on low volatility and quality. There are also GSEC based ETF, theme based ETF. In fact, you can invest in a lot of thematic sectors in infrastructure and NASDAQ through ETFs. So a lot of innovative products have started to come, though they have till now not managed to gain much traction in the market. So what has been our strategy? We have been very new entrant in this space, and as Sarup mentioned that globally we proud ourselves in doing niche ETF. In India, we started our journey in 2018. Till now, we have Nifty 50 and Nifty Next 50 ETF. Both are plain vanilla ETF and basically cater to the current demand of the market. But going forward, in fact, we have just filed for ESG sectors leader ETF, which we feel is very has a very good portfolio and will do well. It's the first in the market in India. We also plan to come up with a fund of fund, which will do allocation based on models in ETFs based in large cap and mid cap categories. Apart from that, in future, we also plan to do more smart beta ETFs and more thematic ETFs. So from our side, the approach will be more barbell in nature, where we'll have some plain vanilla ETFs, but we'll also have exotic products, which will basically provide very exciting offerings to the investors. Now, what are the advantages of ETF? Like why it is catching up in India now, and why it has in last 30 years made huge inroads in the investment community. In September last year, actually, the total AUM of ETF overtook the total AUM of equity mutual funds in the United States, and that's a big thing. So one straightforward advantage in ETF is that it is of very low cost. It doesn't involve any active management, so the cost of ETF is very low. Average large cap ETFs right now in India is just 15 basis point, whereas average cost of TER of equity mutual funds is around 2.2% of regular plans. There's also no exit load in ETF. You can in ETF you can basically enter and exit at intraday net asset value. So unlike mutual funds where you have to where you can only transact based on day and NAV, in ETF you can basically buy and sell intraday. So let's say if market goes down, if Nifty 50 goes down by 1%, by 11 o'clock, at 11 o'clock, you'll be able to purchase a Nifty 50 ETF, which is 1% lower than the previous closing NAV. And that provides a very strong point for investors who basically want to do these trading intraday and take advantage of intraday market volatility. Also, the portfolio is transparent. And one very important thing which has come out is, in the light of shrinking alpha, especially in the large cap space, people want to avoid active risk, right? They simply want to take beta exposure and go with the market, invest in the market and not take the active risk. So that is one very strong point which ETFs have right now, that the performance which is coming from ETFs and the is with the straight beta exposure is far more appealing than at times the active risk which mutual funds are bringing in. And just to highlight that point, just look at this slide in which if you look at 3-year period, Nifty 50 has outperformed 86% of mutual funds by an average of 1.8%. In 5-year period, it has outperformed 78% of mutual funds by an average of 0.9%. Whereas even Nifty Next 50, which consists of smaller large cap companies, has outperformed almost 89% of mutual funds in 5-year and 7-year horizon by an average of 2%. So there's a lot of advantage and a lot of performance which is coming by simply investing in a ETF, in a plain vanilla ETF. Even if you look at the latest market movement, so this particular performance is as on June 23rd, so it considers the market lows of March 23rd. So if you look at 3-month period, Nifty 50 has given a return of 38% almost. And if we compare it with the median returns of large cap funds, it is more than by almost 4%. If you look at a 3-year period, Nifty 50 has given a return of 4.34%, almost 3% more than the median return of large cap funds. And I think in last 2-3 years, this story has been building, especially in large cap space, that mutual funds are basically not able to outperform benchmark on a consistent basis. So it is better to take a beta exposure and invest in a low cost product like Nifty 50 ETF or a Nifty Next 50 ETF. Now, what has been the uses of ETF typically by investors? So obviously, as I mentioned, that beta exposure, taking a simple investing in simple MCAP weighted portfolio of Nifty 50 blue chip stocks makes sense, and a lot of people are doing that. But also what it brings is, it brings a very focused exposure to any sector or theme in which you want to take. For example, if you want to have higher allocation in banking segment, right? Because let's say after March, bank corrected a lot, and if you wanted to take a focus exposure in that segment, then there was a bank ETF. If you want to take a focus exposure in a let's say auto sector, an ETF in that sector would help you to take that exposure. So ETFs help you to take a very focused exposure in any segment of the market. So if you want to take, let's say 70% exposure in a large cap segment, you can invest in Nifty 50 and Next 50 ETF. If you are more bullish on mid caps, you can invest in a mid cap ETF. Whereas in mutual funds and other categories, there is typically a mixed bag where, let's say, 70-80% of the portfolio is invested in a particular segment, and then 20% of the portfolio has been invested tactically to garner more returns, to create that alpha. Also, as I mentioned, ETF can be used for a long-term allocation. Basically, let's say, invest in Nifty 50 and just forget about it for years, make it a part of your core portfolio, or take short-term tactical calls, let's say by investing in a bank ETF or a Nifty Next 50 ETF, and make it your satellite portfolio. If you see there's a dip in the market, if you see that due to intraday volatility, markets have corrected intraday by, let's say, 5-6%, and at that levels are attractive, so at that instant only you can purchase that ETF from the market and have that benefit of volatility and take that short-term tactical calls. So how to trade in an ETF? ETFs, you can go to the AMC and buy in a lot size. A lot size is typically, let's say, in case of Nifty 50, around 50 lakhs. It is a creation unit with which you buy the entire underlying stocks of a particular ETF, and it's usually of a substantial amount. So you can go to the AMC, you can buy the ETF, and you can do this during any time of the day. For example, right now the cutoff is till 1, and till 1 you can go to the AMC and buy that ETF. And again, as I mentioned, that purchase will be at the real-time net asset value. Or you can go to the exchange and transact in ETF like a stock. So ETF trades on exchange like a stock. The quotations are provided by the current investors and as well as the market maker. So what is market maker? Market maker is someone also known as authorized participant who manages the liquidity of the ETF on the exchange, and they form very crucial portion of the entire mechanism of how ETF trades on exchange. They provide both buy and sell code around the real-time net asset value, so that the pricing of the ETF is around the actual NAV, which is at that instant. So it ensures that ETF which is trading on the exchanges is roughly around the right price, and they also ensure the depth in the market by providing these quotations for a substantial amount of ETF. So these market makers play a very substantial role in ETF. So now what Mirae Asset has done differently, right? We are the new entrant in the market, and what do we bring? So what we have done is we have focused on market maker more, because we saw that in India on exchange, the pricing at times was not reflecting the real-time net asset value of the underlying. The liquidity wasn't there. So what we have done is we have our own market maker, which is Mirae Asset Capital Market. It's a sister concern, and they provide the quotations on the exchange without any additional spread around the real-time NAV. And it ensures that the total ownership of cost of the ETF is very low. You are able to buy and sell the ETF units around the actual cost price at all the instances. And secondly, what we have done is, if you want to trade directly with the AMC, we have created a dedicated ETF team who has created a seamless process. As soon as you subscribe, the units are created within 30 minutes, credited in your Demat account, and the process is very seamless. And same thing happens during the redemption, so that the investor not only has good experience while investing, but also had a good experience while exiting from a particular ETF product. So just wanted to highlight on how performance on exchange matter, right? It's not just that you have to track the index well from a NAV point of view. It is also essential that you track the index well on the exchange, right? And that responsibility falls on the market maker. And typically AMCs have these deals with the market maker to ensure that these liquidities provided on the exchange and the pricing is always ensured around the real-time NAV. So in the month of March, what we saw the market was very volatile. And just look at the top row, that Nifty 50, let's say on March 23rd fell by 13%. And just look at what other ETF players were able to do in terms of tracking the underlying index on an intraday basis. Mirae Asset managed to have the best tracking in March simply because we have a better setup in place due to our market maker who is providing the liquidity around the real-time NAV, and that is why on an intraday basis, it is what we are doing is we are providing both entry and exit prices at the right levels. What we are also doing is we are providing the actual pricing, the NAV, latest NAV of the ETF on our website, which is refreshed at every 10 seconds. What it does, it gives you a total transparency. So for example, if you're going on the exchange and seeing a particular price point, and you can come back to the website and see what the NAV of what the latest NAV of that particular ETF is, and if the pricing is right or not. So you can take a very transparent call while investing in our ETF by knowing the exact price of that ETF at all times. Similarly, if you want to invest in a basket size, on our website, you can also see the basket value, which is refreshed every 10 seconds. So as an AMC, being a new entrant, we want to enhance the customer experience. We want to basically lower the cost of owning an ETF through the entire cycle, from while buying the ETF, while holding it, and while exiting the ETF, so that the entire cost which customer gets while investing in ETF is the lowest in the market. And that is what our focus has been, to ensure the convenience and to reduce the overall cost of the market of the ETF. I think to conclude, what we feel is that going forward, more thematic and strategy-based ETFs will come into the market. It will provide more exciting product basket to investor to invest in. Also, what we are seeing is a lot of innovative broking and fintech companies are coming in, which are making the entire process process of investing in ETFs and also in stocks very convenient. The brokerages have gone down. There's much more visibility. People can easily transact in ETF. I think that will also increase the retail participation going forward. Also, what we are seeing is that now ETFs, a plain vanilla ETF like Nifty 50, Next 50 is getting used in core portfolio more and more. And what we'll also see that exotic ETFs or a sector-based ETF like bank or low vol will start getting used in satellite portfolios more and more. Also, last point being that now in India also, in fact, globally, ETF-based model portfolios are very popular. People basically, depending on the risk profile of an investor, construct a very using ETFs, construct very tailor-made portfolio for each and every investor. For example, you can pick up a large cap ETF or a mid cap ETF and gold and GSEC and make a very customized ETF model portfolio for a client. And I think that thing will also happen in India, and it has already started to happen in India. You can just check out some of the fintech companies who are doing very fantastic things around the ETF based model portfolios. So that is it from me. We'll now move to a Q&A session on ETF. I have three esteemed guests with me for that. Mr. Harsh Dhanuka, CIO Incubate Capital Partners from SAR Family Office. Mr. Surinder Balal, Portfolio Manager, Access Investment. And Mr. Puneet Jain, AVP Corporate Treasury, Karan Thapa Group. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Siddharth.
Thanks, Siddharth.
So my first question to Harsh is Is ETF an attractive investment product for treasuries?
So that before coming to ETF as a product, I think family office, large family office and treasuries had started looking in terms of their asset allocation on active and passive together, right? And as Swaroop was mentioning, in developed countries, this thing started quite few years back. But given that Indian markets were not that much efficient, and hence people were still banking on active managers in terms of their allocation. But post SEBI categorization in 2017 per se, the passive kind of paths its way into the asset allocation for family offices and corporate treasuries. And the reason for that is more from a perspective with respect to if you see, there's a report which S&P Global does on a yearly basis, comes with a SPIVA scorecard, right? And if you see there, the thing is to be seen is that approximately 65% of the large cap equity mutual funds have underperformed the index over a 10-year period. So, and this underperformance would continue given obviously because alpha generation opportunities are shrinking in the market, given that they need to now kind of have a narrow kind of universe within which they need to function, right? Which was open-ended few years back before the categorization took place. And hence, the debate of active passive is no more, and hence, people want both as a equal kind of a equal or, depending upon the risk appetite allocation for both active and passive in the portfolio. And then within passive, you have ETF or index fund, multiple kind of products through which you can play the passive strategy. And ETF being one of them obviously helps you out various advantages as you laid down in your presentation, right? In terms of its low cost, you can, the cost of a Nifty 50 ETF is less than of a 10 bips compared to a large cap fund, which is almost 1% plus, right? And at the same time, the advantage that ETF gives you to kind of, as you mentioned, with respect to intraday trading, and given today's volatility, right, it becomes much more important for investors to kind of get on and get out in terms of at a certain, market levels, which obviously a mutual fund doesn't allow you given the day and NAV per se. And at the same time, given, the ETF, as you mentioned, most of the MCs are now declaring their ETF NAVs on a real-time basis. To that extent, it becomes easier for investors also to kind of track their portfolios on a real-time basis, right? Compared to what in a mutual fund, you need to wait for a day and NAV to kind of, get into it. So I would assume, obviously, more and more with passing time, ETF would kind of get into the allocations, and today it's more a need of the hour to that extent.
So, Puneet, do you want to add anything on what Harsh said?
Yeah, I completely agree with Harsh. I mean, if we look data historically, even if I compare at a 3-year spectrum or a 5-year or even rolling averages, the passive funds have outperformed an actively managed fund. And I mean, the risk appetite when you associate with equity is same. So when an investor looks from a risk return perspective as well as in terms of participating in the market, I think ETFs are gaining more popularity primarily because of lower cost and huge outperformance. I mean, we have data wherein they have outperformed almost 70-80% kind of large cap mutual funds. So I think it's gaining popularity, and the AUM also suggests that. I mean, we've grown 4 times in the last 5 years. So it's a huge testimony to the fact that ETFs will continue to gain more and more popularity and share of treasury portfolios.
Sundar, apart from low cost and the recent outperformance of these plain vanilla benchmark, do you think there are any other pointers why it make ETF an attractive option for treasuries? Sundar, sorry, you are on mute.
Yeah. The large family offices or family offices per se have a very lean team. We don't have a AMC structure or a PMS structure or AIF structure wherein we have research head and a large research team. And then the flows are also very stable, and the returns also has to be consistently with the market or beat inflation and give a inflation adjusted return so that the asset or the capital base is growth. So given these restrictions that is there, so the best strategy there is to have a passive investment that is emotionless, that is cheap, and then there's no human bias. And as you said, ETF has outperform any active managers. So these three or four are the critical and important points when we look at the ETF and the strategies for our investing attitudes.
So, Satinder, again to you, how can treasuries take advantage of various strategies using ETF to create a stable and efficient portfolio?
Okay. See, as compared to a debt mutual fund, there are plenty of options within that. That is available, like a credit risk fund or a PSU banking fund and all this stuff. So same with an ETF. There are multiple options available or would be available going forward. So that helps the passive managers to just bet on that particular sector in order to kind of take exposure to the segment that is required, and also fulfill the objective of beating the active managers, or preserve the capital, or outperform and grow the capital. So this is a quite important tool for us to look for.
Harsh, your comments, how can basket of ETF, not a single ETF, basket of ETF help you create an efficient and stable portfolio to serve your purpose in treasury?
So see, ETFs are kind of has been entrant, in last 2 years, and now you are seeing requirements coming in more from an investor side, right? With respect to what is the requirement, and hence you're seeing multiple, ETFs coming into it. So from a basket perspective, as the way you see the various categorization in mutual funds, right, in terms of large caps or mid caps or multi caps and specific thematic funds. The same is the story in the case of ETFs. It's a matter of time that you see some categories, available today in the market, and some categories, as you were mentioning, you're coming with a ESG kind of a ETF. So, and hence, once you create a kind of again, it's a game of asset allocation and the risk appetite of how do you want to play that out in terms of, between the market capitalization and between the sectoral themes. But given the kind of products being available in the market, and given with coming time, the multiple array of products as you see in the mutual fund basket available in the ETF side also, I think you would see larger kind of allocation from large treasuries and family offices going that side. But nonetheless, given India being a kind of a growing economy, and the growth side as talked about from India going to a 5 trillion economy, there are no dearth of active opportunities. But that's more, from a perspective of, bottom-up stock picking perspective, right? And hence, what you see is with respect to, you have ETFs on one side, and then you have more kind of bottom-up stock pickers, available on the other side, be it through PMSs or be it through more multi-cap funds, which are available per se.
Siddharth, even I would like to add a point to this. I mean, entirely, even treasuries don't look ETF from an equity perspective, right? I mean, particularly in the volatile times like this, even gold ETF had made sense to a lot of treasuries, right? People have made money in investing in gold ETFs in last 1 year. And I mean, one can even take an exposure to an offshore ETF per se, if they want an overseas exposure. Like if we see the markets, I mean, typically the US markets, despite whatever has happened in last 6 months, they are almost at their all-time high. So, I mean, ETF gives you that diversification, not only from an equity perspective, but even from an entire asset allocation perspective, maybe into gold or offshore products. I mean, that's also one of the easiest way to diversify across asset classes.
Sure. So, Puneet, again, back to you. Does ETF AUM and liquidity play a big role in deciding ETF for investment, especially now since we talked about different type of ETFs apart from Nifty 50 and Next 50 for creating that efficient basket. How important role does AUM and liquidity plays in picking the right ETF?
Yeah, Siddharth, yes, there have been a lot of misconceptions also if we look from an AUM and a liquidity perspective regarding an ETF, right? People think that then AUM should matter when you are investing into an ETF, but I don't think AUM does affect any investment decisions, because when you're buying an ETF, you're buying a particular lot size in and all those units are replicating an underlying index, whether it be a Nifty 50 or a Nifty Next 50 or gold or whatever. So from an AUM perspective, since you're buying a particular lot with an underlying investment, it should not matter much. And when we talk of liquidity, I think we need to look at from two perspectives. One, what is the underlying securities? And secondly, what is the liquidity in that particular ETF standalone? So ETFs generally, when investors are investing into a bucket of securities which are fairly liquid. Why I say liquid is most of them are predominantly either large caps or mid caps, which have a fairly liquid liquidity, which have a fairly high liquidity in the market. So from that perspective, the liquidity angle of selling the ETF basket back into the market is not a big question. And when of an ETF in particular, I mean, we can buy an ETF, as you said, at a real-time NAV from an AMC. So that liquidity concern is taken care of. Then we have an added advantage of bidding on which also provides you efficiency as well as transparency in terms of costing, lower spreads. So liquidity is managed both at an AMC and can even be managed by transacting on an exchange through an secondary participant. I don't think there should be any thoughts as such in AUM or liquidity perspectives while deciding for an ETF.
Sundar, your thoughts on this?
Yes.
How
Yeah.
AUM and liquidity matter while picking the ETF?
Correct. It's a very good question, because it is always a catch-22. One leads to the other. The more participants who coming in, the more the AUM gets in, because either you subscribe direct to the AMC or it is traded in the market. For us, yes, I would say it is important because that shows what is the potential of the market maker. Because if the market maker is strong and market maker firmly stands behind the product, there will be enough takers for the product. I think that is where we would want to look at, and that is the intention when we look at it's as good as a company or looking at a business. If the promoter is strong, if the promoter is there to deliver, I think this both situation is easily overcome and the hurdles is crossed.
Harsh, your view on this?
So, I have a little different view from that perspective, because given that ETF, the secondary market in India is not that much matured and there are not much market makers to that extent. You see a lot of mispricing in the secondary market with respect to ETF. So given if you are a large treasury and to that extent, you can buy in more of baskets, you can go directly to the AMC and get the right, kind of a NAV to that extent. But, even in this kind of volatility, if I were to quote in the month of March, there was one of the largest ETF in terms of AUM, right? But if you were to see the NAV of that particular ETF with respect on the secondary market versus, the index levels, there was a huge disparity there. So the point is, to that extent, India still has long way to go in terms of the, the secondary market with respect to market making. But given if you are investing on, more on the basket lot size, AMCs are always available more, to get directly from a primary perspective. But going forward, as you, Siddharth, you were mentioning, you have kind of have your own market maker as one of your group company doing that. And similarly, given more and more people are coming into the market and, getting into ETF as a piece, it's a matter of time that, the secondary markets would also get efficient to that extent.
Yeah, I think I also agree with what has been said here. More than AUM, at least if you're transacting on exchange, it matters how good your market maker is to create that liquidity on the exchange and make those units available around the real time net asset value. And if you're going to the AMC, then obviously it can be easily replicated, and a basket can be easily created, and AUM doesn't matter. So mostly it is the market maker who matters on the exchange rather than the AUM. And when you are going directly to the AMC, it doesn't matter, because in the end you are creating a same basket if you're going to an AMC 1 or AMC 2. So agree to what has been said. Harsh, there has been a lot of debate on ETF versus index funds right now in the market. So people are very excited about passive investments, but there's a raging debate on whether to choose ETFs or index funds. So where do you stand on that?
Also, in terms of, again, it depends upon the target audience, right? So, different people have different, kind of objectives to that extent. So given that if you want to get into the market on a real-time basis, and as I mentioned in my opening remarks with respect to the kind of volatility that you're seeing in the markets today, right? ETF is the only product which gets you an entry and exit on a real-time basis at the current prices per se intraday. Index funds, obviously, as mutual funds behave with a day-end kind of a NAV, and therefore you kind of miss that intraday opportunity. But given large treasuries and given their kind of understanding of all the nuances that you have with ETF with respect to basket size, with respect to disparity of the kind of NAVs on secondary market primary, they can still go and trade in ETFs. But more retail investors, given they don't have so much time to spend to understand all these nuances, index funds works for them. But in terms of even if you look at more from a cost perspective, right? Obviously, ETFs are much cheaper to that of the index funds, and because given that if you are getting into a ETF, it's the price that you pay from the underlying securities perspective is only the basket size which is getting created for you, and you pay the cost for creation of that basket. Obviously, in index fund, you end up paying the cost at the day end as accumulation of all the investors coming together. And same is the tracking error as you see between the two. So obviously ETFs kind of have a lower tracking error compared to that of the index fund. So but both the products have their own existence, and depending upon the objective of the investor, given what kind of quantum one needs to invest, right? And another piece is people use more ETFs kind of is more real time, and hence you need to be more watchful in terms of the market levels and hence take that call. But again, people use index funds more as an SIP allocation, right, which goes on a certain frequency or certain kind of a time levels, which index funds can do help you to do that.
Puneet, your opinion on this?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with Harsh on this. I mean, it depends a lot on how evolved an investor is, right? I mean, for a retail investor, just a plain simple way of investing through an SIP or with a lower value at his end to invest, he will obviously choose an index fund, right? But for an evolved investor with a bigger surplus, ETFs makes most because they during the market hours and at a cheaper cost. I mean, if you look in terms of the cost comparison, also there's huge difference when you compare with an index fund and an ETF. And over a tenor of, if you're investing for a longer tenor of say 5, 7, 10 years, even those multiples make a huge difference. So both have their own existence. So it also depends upon the objective and the investor's psyche and what actually he wants out of that.
Sundar, so there are a lot of exciting themes which institutional investors are lapping up in the global markets. Is there any particular theme or strategy you want to see in India which you feel that will catch up in the institutional segment?
Yeah, Siddharth, before going into the question, I would like to add two things on the ETF versus index fund comparison. I think both Puneet and Harsh absolutely nailed it. The only thing I would add here is, see, the index fund pulls people because of the brand. That brand itself gives that comfort and the confidence that somebody is there behind that liquidity and the flexibility. Whereas when it's on an ETF, they don't know who is there behind. I think that is the only key differentiator for a retail investor's concern. As Puneet said, a retail doesn't know who's standing behind, whereas the institution knows. So that way, that's where it has a slight edge today. But there are plenty of negatives to that, which I think Harsh has summarized, and I don't want to go into detail. And coming to the themes here, I think definitely, I think globally, you said there are 7,100 ETFs. Your list hardly had 15, when you did a comparison in India. So smart buy, smart beta, value, gold. Gold is something which is emerging in India slowly. But other than that, we only have a Sensex or a Nifty ETF for us. In few years back, if I remember, for the Middle East market, they had a Sharia product, So like that, the themes are very, very important because, ultimately, if somebody wants to strategize and somebody wants to look at a particular theme, like the ESG theme that is becoming very popular, or say for that matter, pharma theme today with everybody's talking about pharma, or an auto theme as some previous panelists said that auto is important. I think themes are definitely important. Themes are the right way to go to identify the sector that possibly the manager feels that's going to be in vogue for the next 2-3 months or coming years. So I think themes are the best way to go about in order to outperform and generate the alpha.
Harsh, your view on this? Any particular theme which is doing well globally, which is exciting you, or you wish that was there here in India?
So I think with respect to, as I mentioned, you would see every kind of mutual fund as the mutual fund basket kind of has progressed over time. The similar basket would be available for you on the passive side also to choose per se, right? So that is a product evolution time period, right? One has seen in most of the developed countries. Apart from that, I think the way smart beta strategies are coming in terms of low val or kind of high quality, and the point is today we see large investors kind of setting out the objectives, right, as what are they expecting in terms of the risk reward, in terms of where they want a product, and hence products are getting built up accordingly, right? Looking at the kind of setting up the filters right at the initiation of the product in terms of the the risk, underlying risk that you want to take. At the same time, I don't want per se a very high return expectation, right? But with a low volatility, how can you give me a substantial kind of a double digit return? How can that work out? So I think with that objectives are being laid out, and when we speak to a lot of manufacturers, it's not only AMCs, and we see all private bankers and everything, in order to, because this is a trend of in terms of how to reduce cost per se, right? And but at the same time deliver the similar kind of return to the investors. So from that perspective, multiple objectives are being laid out from a product manufacturing perspective.
So what are the parameters which you guys look from for an ETF while deciding which ETF to go for? So like Puneet, if you can take this question first.
Yeah, I mean, an ETF has to be, if we look at an ETF, I mean, if we've also looked at from an AUM perspective, from liquidity management perspective, the role of an AMC becomes very important, and so does the role of a market participant. So when we look from that angle, it has to be very efficiently managed. Why? Because when an investor is entering into an ETF, he is looking for a low cost product. Plus, he's looking to beat the regular index funds or even large cap funds. So the tracking error has to be very low. Then the efficient management and efficiency of the market participant plays a very important role. So unless the market participant gives you a real-time pricing, which is very cost effective and very transparent, then ETF makes no sense. So liquidity on the secondary market thereby becomes again very important when you look at an ETF. And obviously the spreads have to be very low. The tracking error has to be very low. I think so. These factors play a very important role because ideally these are the key factors why an investor is going towards an ETF rather than an index fund. And also from the perspective of managing liquidity, these factors play a very critical role.
Sundar, your comments on this?
Yeah, I think, see, by heart, by nature, we all risk averse, largely whatever we say, we are matured investors, intelligent investors, and all that. But when shit hits the roof, we want the exit, and we have to be the first one to exit. So that point in time, we want liquidity. We want liquidity, and we only want liquidity. So I guess that is the most and the important matter for us to consider when looking at the product.
Okay, I think we are running out of time, but one last question, and on a personal level, so maybe Harsh, you can start first. The question is, what is your view on ETF, and do you invest in ETFs personally?
So personally, I have not got into ETF. I've used gold ETFs, but not to Nifty 50 per se. But I've used more of Nifty Next 50 index funds, more from a SIP perspective. But I assume Nifty Next 50 is a very good, from be it you use as an ETF or as an index fund, but good one to kind of from a long tenure perspective. And similarly, as you see, gold, there are a lot people are positive on gold as an asset class. So, again, gold ETFs or gold ETF funds per se provide a good opportunity from a passive strategy perspective.
Puneet, your view on this?
Yeah, when I look at my treasury side, we do invest into ETFs. It does provide us, apart from playing an active equity strategy, a bit of passive investment into equities is important also to manage the risk. We do an ETF investing from at a certain percentage levels at our treasury levels. But when I talk personally, yes, been more bullish on Nifty Next 50, so have been doing more lump sums and SIPs towards Nifty Next 50 index funds, not ETF particularly. And gold has always been a part of the portfolios. So gold ETFs and gold index funds have always been part of the portfolio. Ideally, in India, particularly owning gold and storing it safely is a big concern. Why not just do it in an electronic form and stay rest assured? People in India are very emotionally attached to gold, particularly. So these two themes have been at play when I decide at the treasury level, even at the personal level.
Sundar, your comments on this?
Yes, I do say that, when you do active management, you get that adrenaline high, it's like jumping from a 30,000 feet helicopter. But bottom line is that what have you achieved by that? So that way, when you come to a realistic standpoint, I'm a big fan of ETF. Personally, I've done banking ETF. I was very upset when I didn't see any pharma ETFs in the market because last 4-5 months it has just gone out of the roof. I was trying to look for it from last October, but I couldn't get. Banking, yes. Gold bees, yes. Now, because as Puneet rightly said, I don't want to be stacking. And on a fund basis, we have across all. We have gold, we have market, we have junior, we have mid cap, we have Nasdaq. So we are a big fan there. So we have plenty invested, and it has done quite well for us.
So thank you, Puneet. Thank you, Harsh. Thank you, Sundar, for joining us. It was a great pleasure to have conversation with you guys and listen to your expert opinions on why ETF makes sense in India now. Thank you, viewers, for joining us. If you have any queries, please contact Mirae Asset team. Stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.